Washington. A recently published draft amendment to a Chinese law, which includes new penalties related to clothing and accessories worn in public, has sparked widespread attention. Observers criticize the legal provisions as yet another move by the Chinese Communist Party, CCP, to suppress civil liberties, trampling on citizens' rights to freedom of speech and expression. The CCP's crackdown on civil liberties is intensifying, extending from controlling freedom of speech to restricting freedom of attire. The Standing Committee of the National People's Congress recently reviewed and released the draft amendment to the Public Security Administration Punishment Law of the People's Republic of China. Article 34, Clause 2 of the draft stipulates that wearing or forcing others to wear clothing or symbols in public places that harm the spirit of the Chinese nation or hurt the feelings of the Chinese nation will result in detention of 5 to 10 days or a fine of 1,000 to 3,000 yuan. In more serious cases, detention of 10 to 15 days may be imposed, along with a fine of up to 5,000 yuan. See also. China's new public security law draft sparks rare public criticism from scholars. State media commentators admit flaws in content. Should expressing wool through clothing be criminalized? The CCP authorities are using the Public Security Administration Punishment Law, commonly referred to as the Minor Criminal Law, an administrative law for minor offenses that do not constitute crimes, to restrict and regulate what people wear or display in public, imposing detention and fines. This is seen as another instance of stripping citizens of their freedom of expression through legal provisions. Xu Lin, an independent commentator from Guangzhou, China, believes that elevating personal clothing and accessories to the level of harming the spirit of the Chinese nation or hurting the feelings of the Chinese nation, and criminalizing it is unjustified. Speaking to Voice of America, he said, "Wearing clothes is entirely a matter of personal freedom, isn't it? Even if someone expresses a certain meaning through it, doesn't that fall under the scope of free speech? Everyone has the right to express their stance and opinions." Liu Zhengqing, a Guangzhou lawyer whose license was revoked for defending clients' rights in court and delivering defense statements, told Voice of America, "The formulation of laws in China has always been whatever the Communist Party wants. They draft laws based on policy needs. The CCP does whatever it pleases now, unlike Western countries where lawmaking follows strict procedures. Their arbitrariness is very strong." Chen Zhongong, a former Chinese human rights lawyer now living in the U.S., told Voice of America that enacting such a law reflects a distorted reality and the current state of CCP rule. He said the clause the CCP seeks to amend, framed as hurting the feelings of the Chinese nation, is essentially an arbitrary expansion of behavioral control, extending to what people wear, what hairstyles they choose, and what accessories they use, all subject to CCP legal oversight. Chen, now a visiting scholar at American University, added, "At its core, this control is the CCP's interference in an individual's life, down to the level of ordinary people's clothing and preferences, even whether you like something or not." He noted that the CCP's control over citizens mirrors the tactics of fascist regimes and the Soviet authoritarian government, where loving the country and the party becomes a mandatory requirement. When a citizen slightly deviates, the CCP imposes legal punishment, effectively regulating personal thoughts and preferences. With or without laws, China acts arbitrarily. A Beijing lawyer, who requested anonymity, responded to Voice of America via email, saying that given the state of Chinese nationalism today, the introduction of such legal provisions is hardly surprising. Everyone knows it's absurd, but is opposition effective? Couldn't they deal with you even without a law? There were plenty of cases before this law was drafted, like the Suzhou girl in a kimono incident. Chen Zhongong also pointed out that whether this law is amended or not, the CCP has long been enforcing such measures in practice. On August 10, 2022, a woman wearing a kimono was photographing herself on Suzhou's Weihai Street, attempting to cosplay a scene from a Japanese manga. Online videos showed her being loudly reprimanded by local police. "You're Chinese, yet you're wearing a kimono." The police forcibly dragged her away on suspicion of provoking trouble. During over 5 hours of restricted freedom, she was subjected to education, forced to delete photos, write a self-criticism, and had her kimono confiscated. On August 15, the anniversary of Japan's unconditional surrender, the video of this incident became a trending topic online. Some netizens supported the police, claiming The girl wearing a kimono hurt national feelings, and state media outlet CCTV chimed in, saying, "It's not that we're too sensitive. It's that our experiences have been too painful." However, other netizens defended her freedom to dress as she pleased, arguing that no law prohibits wearing a kimono, and the incident didn't occur at a sensitive time or place. "How does wearing a kimono become a crime?" they asked. "You shouldn't wear suits either. Have you forgotten how our ancestors were oppressed by European powers?" Although police visited the woman's home on August 19 to return her clothes and shoes, expressing concern, they offered no apology for their baseless and rough enforcement. The Suzhou kimono girl incident from a year ago raised concerns among observers about whether it meets the legal criteria under the Public Security Administration punishment law, namely, wearing or forcing others to wear clothing or symbols in public that harm the spirit of the Chinese nation or hurt its feelings. They worry that once this criterion is criminalized, the law, in the hands of inconsistent enforcers without a clear standard or measure, risks being abused. Abuse of enforcement poses great danger. Xu Lin, the independent commentator, said that if this public security law is implemented, how it is interpreted and what constitutes a violation will determine whether it is prone to abuse, a critical issue. He told Voice of America, "They talk about hurting national feelings and such, but there's no clear definition. What exactly counts as hurting national feelings? Without a clear explanation, it's easily left to the discretion of law enforcement. If they say it is, it is. If they say it isn't, it isn't. It becomes a catch-all crime, prone to abuse of power." Liu Zhengqing, the Guangzhou lawyer, added, "It's not just about suppressing free speech. Some local officials use it to generate revenue and exploit people. It's not only a political issue. Local officials, with the economy struggling, might use this law to oppress ordinary citizens." Lao Dongyan, a criminal law professor at Tsinghua University, publicly opposed Articles 34(2) and 34(3) of the draft amendment to the Public Security Administration punishment law on Weibo. She wrote, "Harming the spirit of the Chinese nation or hurting its feelings is an extremely vague concept. Different people will interpret and apply it in entirely different ways. Using it as a legal standard for punishment inevitably creates overly ambiguous criteria, easily leading to the arbitrary expansion of administrative penalties." She warned that vague standards would lead to selective enforcement, abuse of power, new opportunities for corruption, heightened police public tensions, and risks to social stability. Professor Lau also argued, "State power directly intervening in citizens' daily clothing choices is clearly excessive. Such legislation could fuel populism or extreme nationalism, further deteriorating the public discourse environment and unduly suppressing personal freedom in everyday attire and speech." Zhao Hong, a professor at China University of Political Science and Law, wrote online, "If wearing a kimono for a photo can be interpreted as harming national spirit and warranting punishment, then eating Japanese food, watching anime, or even learning Japanese could easily be deemed offensive to national feelings. If public officials can arbitrarily expand and apply the law based on personal biases, we're not far from finding a crime where there's a will." The newly added clause in China's draft amendment to the Public Security Administration punishment law regarding wearing or displaying clothing or symbols in public that harm the spirit of the Chinese nation or hurt its feelings has sparked widespread online attention and debate. Lawyer Wang Jing remarked, "I can't comprehend wearing clothing or symbols that hurt the feelings of the Chinese nation. The suits we wear are from foreigners, the leather shoes are from foreigners, our hairstyles are from foreigners. Which of these doesn't hurt national feelings? If we remain silent, one day we'll be silenced forever." Online communities overwhelmingly questioned, who defines hurting national feelings? How is it measured? Does eating Japanese seafood count? Does wearing Cultural Revolution-era clothing count? A netizen on X, formerly Twitter, posted a photo of Deng Xiaoping bowing to Japanese hosts during a 1978 visit to Japan, pleading for help from companies like Panasonic and the Japanese government. The post asked, did he commit the crime of hurting the feelings of the Chinese nation? How should he be punished? Others commented, with September 18, a sensitive date tied to Japan's invasion of China approaching, does driving a Japanese car count? It hurts national feelings. If you're sick and take Western medicine or visit a hospital combining Chinese and Western medicine, does that count? It harms the spirit of the Chinese nation, though not as extreme as the counter-espionage law, you could still be taken away, fined, or detained anytime. We'll need to be even more careful about what we say, wear, or do. Xu Yilong, editor-in-chief of Toutiao, expressed concern on social media. Back then, the guy who smashed a compatriot's head with a U-lock didn't think he was a bad person doing a bad thing. He just felt that a Chinese person driving a Japanese car hurt his national feelings. Once this law passes, who knows how many righteous people will legally cause public security or even criminal cases. In the spring and summer of 2021, amid escalating tensions over the Diaoyu Islands, anti-Japan protests erupted across China. Kai Yang, a 21-year-old worker in Xi'an, joined a violent demonstration and used a U-lock to smash a Japanese car. When the car owner, Li Jianli, tried to protect his vehicle, Kai struck him on the head, causing severe injuries and a fourth-degree disability. Kai was sentenced to 10 years in prison. Chinese authorities continue to enact laws through their rubber-stamp legislature to restrict rights guaranteed by the Constitution, curbing freedom of speech and expression, and imposing harsh penalties on violators. The Amendment 11 to the Criminal Law of China, effective March 1, 2021, explicitly criminalized insulting or defaming heroes and martyrs for the first time. Previously, the Heroes and Martyrs Protection Law, enacted on May 1, 2018, addressed such acts through civil litigation, not criminal penalties. In the first conviction under this amendment, the Jianye District Court in Nanjing, Jiangsu Province, sentenced prominent media figure Chu Ziming, online alias Spicy Penball, to 8 months in prison on May 31 for infringing on the reputation and honor of heroes and martyrs.